What's good, everybody? Welcome into a very special live edition. Our apologies for being a little bit late, even though we told everybody on social media, 8:30. Thank you for joining us live. He is the hottest handicapper in all the world of MMA. He is Ian Parker. Happy birthday to you, sir. How are you tonight?
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Nothing like a birthday with some UFC fights to follow. So I'm ready to deliver. Let's get it going.
Let's get it. Now, a little housekeeping before we get started with our picks today. We do this all in 20 minutes or less. If you want to leave us a comment or leave us a question, do so in the comments section, and our guy Cody will make sure I get it. And we'll try to get to as many as we can because we do rapid fire. Now, UFC 264, the biggest event of the year. It's Poirier. It's McGregor 3, the trilogy. Now, there's so much to get into. Now, this is not the place where we do our best bets. This is not the place where we do Parker's Parlay. You want to get that? You watch our Early Edge episode. You watch our Early Edge episode, and you follow us at Sportsline. This, on Combat Coach, is where we break down every single fight. He tells you how he thinks it's going to finish, whether it's a big favorite or not, and then we go race through it. 13 fights on this card from the sold-out T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. So let's jump right in. Early prelim fights look a little something like this. Fight number one. AMEDOVSKI, minus 143 favorite over YAOZONG, plus 115. This is a middleweight matchup. Ian, first fight, what do you see?
I like AMEDOVSKI here. I think he's the better of the two. YAOZONG has not had a lot of success in any division he's fought in. So if you want to get a little frisky to start off the card with the first fight of the night, I'm going AMEDOVSKI.
Now, I will tell you this, that when you talk about first fight of the night, if you watch this on PFL, on ESPN+, then you know that 3 weeks in a row, my guy picked the underdog pick of the week in the very first fight. So he knows what he's doing. All right, fight number two. ZHUMAGULOV, I always butcher these names, minus 340. It's a big-time favorite over RIVERA, plus 260 coming back as the underdog. These are flyweights. What do you like?
I like ZHALGAS here over Jerome Rivera. Look, Rivera is big for the weight class, but he just can't put it together. He gasses. A lot of people are questioning ZHALGAS' cardio. I don't really understand it. He's going to be the better grappler, better wrestler. There's a reason why he's minus 345. If you are going to play this, you have to put him in a parlay. Otherwise, stay away. That's way too big of a line.
All right, that's what I figured. Really, if you're brand new to MMA betting or you're just watching Combat Coach for the very first time, our baseline, which is different than regular sports, is at minus 200. Anything below, we can play it straight. Anything above, we're very, very, very selective on what fights we can play straight. All right, fight number three on the early prelims, which starts at 6 p.m. Eastern time. AKHMEDOV plus 142. Underdog TAVARES is a favorite, minus 177. These are middleweights. What do you like?
I'm going with Brad Tavares here. What he showed me in that last fight against Shoeface was a more composed, a mature fighter with a great camp. He put it all together. The fact that Carlos Jr. was not able to take Tavares down at all. Tavares literally controlled the narrative the entire fight. I don't see it being any different here against a lesser jiu-jitsu practitioner. AKHMEDOV is way too predictable with striking. Not a good cardio tank. I like Tavares.
And at minus 177, we can bet this straight, correct?
Yes, sir.
I like it. I like it. All right, fight number four. There's only four in the early prelims. We're going to go to the women's flyweight division. Jennifer Maia, minus 200 against Jessica Eye, plus 162. This might be one of his bets on the Early Edge show. I'm just saying. What do you like?
A part of it might just be. I like Jennifer Maia here. You know, my issue with Jessica Eye, she just hasn't changed with the game. Inconsistent fights. You know, her last fight where she missed weight but beat JoJo Calderwood, you know, to me, I just don't see it here. Jennifer Maia is a bull. She went all 5 rounds with Valentina Shevchenko, better jiu-jitsu, and I think her striking's come a long way. Minus 200, coach, a little too high to play it straight. So this is one that I would put in a parlay. I do like her in this situation, and I think she gets it done.
Okay, we always say with the women's fights, and I will say this, that lately there have been more knockouts, but traditionally, historically, the women like to go the distance. We're not really doing totals on the show because we don't do that many totals, but would you like the over here 2.5 if the number was right?
If the number was right, you could throw it into a parlay. I don't see either one getting the finish. If someone was to do it, it would be Maia getting it done by sub, just because Jessica, you know, she's just more of a defensive ground player. She doesn't threaten with submissions, and Maia's very good there.
Okay, we do have a question we need to get to before we get to the next one. From Wicked Sports Hub, what is your prop of the night? Pretty good question. What is it?
Oh man, they're beating me to the punch. I like my prop of the night will be Stephen Thompson to win by decision at plus 160.
All right, very good. Why?
Stephen Thompson doesn't really get a whole lot of finishes in this fight. Gilbert Burns is very hard to put away, and Thompson's not one. I mean, I don't want to be redundant with what we're going to talk about later, but both guys are hard to finish in a 3-round fight. I just see Thompson really controlling the narrative, and most of his wins have come by decision, so I like it there.
All right, keep those questions coming. Keep those comments coming. Cody will get them to me if you send them in. Yeah, it really was. All right, so those are 4 fights down, 4 fights on the regular prelim card. Let's move on to that now. Cody, jump in here because I know I'm going to butcher this name, and you said it perfectly on the pre-show. Is it Duplessis? Duplessis? Minus 118? Duplessis?
Duplessis.
Duplessis. Thank you, Cody. Duplessis. Against TREVIN Giles, minus 106. These are middleweights. What do you like?
Duplessis is a very, and I would have butchered that too if Cody didn't do it, so don't feel bad. That was like on PFL when they keep throwing us the names over and over again. That was great practice for me. That was a good cheat code. I like Duplessis here. You know, Giles is not a bad fighter. He's good on the ground. He's got good stand-up. What I've seen is cardio issues. Now, when he puts it together, he's a tough guy. But Duplessis, to me, just seems like that prospect who's really ready for this level. I don't think he's going to get tired. I think when you put pressure on Giles is where he kind of crumbles. And I see Duplessis doing that. So I don't love this play per se because it is very evenly matched. And Duplessis is still new to the UFC. I believe it's his second fight. But I would lean that way.
All right. You can tell by the odds that it's a very even fight, at least the books think so as well. All right. Fight number 2 on the prelim card, Ryan Hall, a plus 195 underdog. TOPURIA, a minus 250 favorite. These are featherweights. What do you like? I believe somebody just muted himself. Hold on. Make sure we can.
My apologies. There we go.
That's all right. That's right.
That's all right. I didn't give away the secret just yet. That would have. And on to the next one. They got my pick. All right. So, you know, this one is one of the more intriguing fights, if not the most interesting fight to me on the entire card. We've been wondering where Ryan Hall has been. This guy comes in. He gets these leg locks. He's just a wizard. He looks like he's from Harry Potter, yet he comes in and he's tearing limbs off of people. You know, his striking's coming along. However, he's won some really good fights. Darren Elkins is a tough guy, and he dominated Elkins the entire fight. He's taken on one of the top prospects in the division in ILIA Topuria. Topuria is a black belt in his own right as well in jiu-jitsu. He's a physical specimen. He is going to be the better striker of these two, the more aggressive one. I think he's going to be the more physically gifted in regards to strength, faster. I like Topuria here. I don't like him at minus 250. I think this fight goes the distance, but I like Topuria in any parlay you want to put it. It's the only way to bet it. Only reason why I say that, 250, way too much to risk. He is still a prospect, and Hall is undefeated in the UFC. No one's figured him out. I think Topuria can.
If we have seen anything with prospects or guys that are new in their first 2 or 3 fights in the UFC that have a big number next to them, it doesn't mean they're going to win. You've got to have some a runway for us to see what you'll do in the octagon, not what you did in your regional organization. All right, next fight on the prelim card, the third fight, NIKO Price, plus 130 underdog, taking on MICHEL PEREIRA, minus 162 favorite. These are welterweights. I love the welterweights. What do you like here?
Yeah, this might be fight of the night. That really depends on what Pereira shows up here. So I'm a big fan of both these guys. NIKO is a sweetheart. He comes to fight. My only thing about NIKO Price is that when he gets these finishes, they're off his back. It's an up kick. It's a hammer fist in something we've never seen before. So it's a rarity. In this fight, he is going to be the athleticism is night and day between the two. Pereira is the better striker. He is going to be the bigger fighter, black belt in jiu-jitsu. And we've seen him now go 3 rounds. In that last fight against Chaos Williams, what I was most impressed about with Michel Pereira was his IQ, his discipline, his maturity. He got away from those stupid flips, that Cirque du Soleil nonsense, and we finally saw that warrior, that fighter that we believe in. This guy could be a top 5 guy in the next year if he stays composed and doesn't force stuff. I like Pereira, especially at minus 162. I don't know where Price beats him. Pereira just got to stay away from the brawl. Be technical, be composed. He gets the win.
Do you think the number will go up closer to fight time, so we should play it early?
I think you should. This number's bounced around a little bit. It's gone up and down already. Originally, Pereira was minus 135 when it first opened. I don't know how much higher it potentially goes because this fight's flying under the radar because of some of the other heavier names on the card. But I'm telling you right now, there will be fireworks in this one. As long as Pereira stays composed, he should get the win.
All right, stay composed, stay composed. All right, let's go to the main event of the prelim card. The natural-born killer, Carlos Condit. He's on the back end of his career. He's a plus 150 underdog, taking on Max Griffin, a minus 190 favorite. Of course, these are welterweights. I can't wait for this fight. What do you see?
I like Max Griffin in this one. It's nothing against Carlos Condit. The last couple guys he beat, Matt Brown, Court McGee, on the tail end of their career. Max Griffin is a guy that if he fights intelligently, doesn't get caught up in the whole brawl and want to be exciting situation, his advantage here will be wrestling. He will be the better wrestler. He'll be the better guy against the cage. If he puts Condit on his back instead of trying to get the knockout, Condit has trouble getting off his back and sometimes too comfortable because of his jiu-jitsu skills. I like Max Griffin here.
All right, you're watching at home a very special live edition of Combat Coach, powered as always by Coach Picks. Our guy Ian Parker, who has been winning at about an 85 to 90% clip across all of the organizations, PFL, Bellator, and this week it is the UFC. If you got a question or a comment, you want to get it on the show, we only do 20 minutes or less. We got some of these shows that sit here for 3 hours. 20 minutes or less, get it in right now. Cody will get it to me. All right, let's move on to the main card. And the first fight on the main card is not what it was supposed to be. So the numbers, well, they are staggering. Sugar Sean O'Malley, it almost feels now because his opponent fell out that it's almost a showcase fight for him. He's minus 835, taking on a dude who is plus 525 that could shock the world. Do you think he will?
I do not think he will. 2-2 in his last 2 fights for a regional organization. Look, I give Chris a lot of credit for stepping up. Sean O'Malley should get this win. Excuse me. He should get it done within the distance. To me, this is a lose-lose situation for Sean. He gets nowhere further in his career by winning this fight. But if he gets it done in spectacular form, it's still going to be Sugar Sean getting it done on the Sugar Sean show. I like O'Malley here.
I do give him credit for still taking the fight because this is going to be the biggest card of the entire year. He didn't want to come off and be watching from the sidelines and lose out on the payday and lose out on the eyeballs. They're going to be watching him. So I'll give him a lot of credit for that. We do have a question from our viewers at YouTube. Looks like this. Do you ever do the DK Pool 6-person DFS style anything for this weekend? Do you ever play fantasy MMA?
Guilty pleasure. I do one lineup for the grand prize every single time. It is a bloodbath always because something always screws it up. Here's what I'll tell you guys. If you guys are going to jump into that, have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously because there's a million people in there. You got to pick at least 1 or 2 underdogs that are going to get knockouts. If you don't see it, don't throw your money away. Instead, watch our shows, place the bets, build up that bankroll, and then do it the following week.
We tell you all the time, grind week in and week out, head-to-head matchups. That's where you're going to make your money. It's just like playing fantasy golf. People ask me about fantasy golf all the time because I'm doing the PGA Tour this week. It's literally like throwing something against the wall and hoping it sticks and getting lucky. That's how lucky you have to be. Everything has to be perfect. All 6 people have to finish high. So it's very difficult, but it can be fun. All right, our next fight, keep the questions coming if you got any. All right, our next fight on the main card, we're going with the women in the bantamweight division. Aldana, minus 120 is a favorite. This is very even as far as the odds are concerned, taking on Kunitskaya, minus 105. What do you see here?
I'll keep this one short. I like Aldana here. She has way more of a rise in stock for me. Way better boxer. She's better on the ground. She just has to stay off the cage. Yana Kunitskaya is very good in the clinch. She can hold you there, but Aldana's going to have the reach. She'll be able to keep her distance. I like Aldana at minus 120. Believe it or not, I would have put her at minus 155 for this one. So
wow.
I think there's a lot of value.
35 cents of value approximately from the Duck. All right, let's go to the third fight. And if you would have told me, Ian, 3 years ago that Greg Hardy would be the third fight on a UFC pay-per-view card that's the biggest card of the year that involved Conor McGregor, I would have told you we're crazy. But he's got to start showing up. He's an underdog, a slight one, plus 110, taking on Tuivasa, minus 139. These are big, big boys. How do you see it?
I like Tai Tuivasa here. I do think Hardy takes this seriously, but I still think there's a limitation with his ground game, with his cardio. And if he doesn't get the knockout, he just doesn't win. The output's out there. Tuivasa is taking this seriously. And since we've seen that, 2-0 in his last 2 fights, beating guys where he was the underdog. And I like Tuivasa that he's at AKA with Cormier working on his wrestling and his clinch game. That's going to be huge here. As long as he stays away from rock'em sock'em robots with Hardy and he stays true to the game plan, Tuivasa wins, and we'll all be doing a shoey with him right after.
Oh, I love the shoey. Minus 139 shoey, by the way. All right, now we're up to the co-main event of the evening. 2 of my favorite fighters. It's such a difference in style. One guy who was rising and then got intimidated, taking on the champ. And then you got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who's kind of been around for several years, but he's never got, I think, the pub he deserved because he just doesn't knock people out. Thompson is the favorite at minus 157. Gilbert Burns plus 126. This is a welterweight fight. I think Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has to be impressive. I think he needs a knockout. I think he needs to show Dana White, I can be a guy that you can put this company behind for the next 2 or 3 years. Does he have a performance like that in him?
Well, the thing is with Wonderboy Thompson is that he has a unique style where he could actually still put on that performance without getting the knockout. I mean, look, he has some killer knockouts as a kickboxer, karate. We've seen it. The way his style is, though, it's not power punching. It comes within the flow. His knockouts usually come later because of all the damage he puts on with all the output. Someone like Gilbert Burns, for me, this was a very weird matchup for him to come back to after the Usman fight. If they're thinking like, oh, Gilbert Burns is just going to take this guy down because he's a jiu-jitsu master, you would think that. But Wonderboy has been working on that takedown defense, and it's actually extremely underrated and very impressive. Plus, he doesn't stop moving. He knows how to use that side kick to push guys away. He knows how to use his jab. He strikes at different angles. I think Thompson wins this fight. If he dominates without finishing, I still think, you know, look, Colby Covington's getting the next title shot. If Wonderboy wins, I put him up against Leon Edwards to decide the next #1 contender. I really like Thompson in this fight. And based on what we talked about earlier with the prop, Thompson to win, fine. Thompson win by decision, plus 160.
If anybody tuned in late, that was the prop we gave away about, 10 minutes or so ago. Plus 160, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson by decision, correct? By decision, because he just doesn't knock anybody out. That's just who he is, and that's why he's not a big pay-per-view fighter. It's why he doesn't win a lot of bonuses, because he fights to score points like he's in a kickboxing match and not to knock a guy's head off. All right, we've got a question before we get to our main event, and it's going back to the Sugar Shane fight. It's minus 835. Is there a prop that you like that could bring that number down, that could people want to bet on him? Let's face it. He's like the Dallas Cowboys. He's like the Pittsburgh Steelers. People want to bet on this dude. Is there a prop that we can bet on him?
Look, you want to say Sugar Shaw wins by knockout or TKO? I think that's how it gets done. You know, this guy who he's fighting has to come forward, has to turn it into a brawl because he's not submitting Sean. It's not going to happen. Dude's too good off his back. So I would say with it doesn't go the distance. I would say Sugar Shaw wins by TKO or KO. I'm okay with those props. If you're that antsy, you want to bet on that fight because you want the action, those would be the 2 ways to go about it.
So if we go the under, because it's not going to go the distance, so you can bet it not to go the distance, but that number is probably pretty high, to be honest.
Yeah.
The under, maybe you can find an alternate number under 1.5. Would you play that?
I don't mind under one. I don't mind it because he gets started pretty quickly. And again, when you have a guy like Chris who's taking a short notice fight, I don't know where his cardio is going to be. He comes from a good camp. And it doesn't mean that he's been training for a fight like this. So school of thought is either he paces himself, which leaves him open, or he comes out the gate and just unloads the whole gas and gets rid of the tank quick. According to Cody, Sean, round 1 is plus 130 and round 2 plus 300. I like, honestly, both round 1 and round 2, I don't mind. I think I like round 1 a little bit better.
All right, very good. So there are the props for the Sugar Shane show. You're welcome. Thank you all for the questions coming out tonight. We're going to do more of these live shows because I like throwing the questions in between the picks too. All right, we've come up to the main event. It's one of the biggest main events the UFC has ever had. It's a trilogy fight, which we normally don't get. It's 1-1. There's legacies on the line. There are titles down the road on the line. Dustin Poirier took this fight because of the money. He could have had a title shot. Dana White said 3 days ago, he said, this is exactly what Dustin Poirier should have done. Take the big payday, beat Conor, and then he can still get that title shot against Oliveira a few months from now. So break it down quickly before you give us your pick on what is on the line in your mind for both guys Saturday night.
I just want to point out, Coach, look at that line. What did we say last week when it was Dustin at minus 105?
Yes.
What did we say earlier today when it was Dustin at minus 125?
Keeps going, right. Keeps going up. Keeps going up.
Here's the narrative. It's simple. Dustin wins. He gets a title shot against Charles Oliveira. You know, he's had the interim title. He's never had the undisputed title. So that would complete his legacy. For Conor McGregor, if he wins, I don't think the title is necessary for him at this point. I don't even think he would want to fight Charles Oliveira. That's a stylistic nightmare for him with the reach, the submission game, everything. For me, I think win or lose, Conor McGregor should fight either Tony Ferguson or Nate Diaz in the trilogy. At this point, for me, for Conor, it's legacy, it's money. You know, I don't want to see him, if he loses this fight, I don't want to see him really lose anymore unless it's in a fight that really has no meaning in the division. You know, he got finished in the second round. This fight shouldn't even have happened, but it's Conor McGregor. He gets what he wants, right? And that's okay. He sells. So, like I said, and if Dustin loses, that's up to Dustin where he wants to go with his career. You know, if Dustin loses, Dustin maybe fights a Beneil Dariush, you know, fights like the number 5 guy in the division, you know, or he goes and fights a Tony Ferguson. So, with that being said, I like Dustin Poirier in this fight. I don't see why anyone would think that anything would be different than the last fight. Who is Conor brought in to train in the camp? Is he even training with SBG normally? I don't think so. Watching him ride his bicycle, I keep talking about this. That's all I keep seeing. I see him stretch. I see him flex in suits. I'm not seeing any cage time, you know? And with Dustin, American Top Team, he has all the top guys in the world there. I think Dustin's coach is going to have a great game plan. Conor's not learning how to wrestle overnight. It's just not happening. So he's got to watch out for the calf kicks and the takedowns. I like Dustin to win this one again.
And we know that the ego that Conor McGregor has, that because Dustin Poirier has shown us so much of his training and all the different bells and whistles and toys that they have there, that Conor McGregor would have shown us the same thing if he was actually getting down and dirty and putting in the time and putting in the effort. I know that Conor McGregor, for some reason, he can go on social media, Ian, right after he loses a fight, and it's almost as if he didn't lose. But for the fans at home, he's lost enough that I believe this is the line in the sand for him. That if he loses this in a knockout fashion, that people at home are going to say, you know what? I'm not paying $69 to watch this dude run his mouth and then get knocked out anymore. I think there's as much on the line for both guys: money, prestige, legacy. That's why I think there's so much interest. And Dana White says there's going to be more celebrities at this fight than they've ever had before, which is going to be really, really, really cool. All right, don't forget, watch the early edge. We have all of our best bets there. Parker's parlay as well. Let's quickly run through all of these and what Ian Parker said will happen. And again, if you want to play the numbers, you can, but I cannot be more clear. These are not his best bets. These are not his picks. All right, 13 fights. Let's quickly go through the early prelims. AMEDOVSKI minus 143. You did pick them, right? You did pick him, right? All right, then ZHUMAGULOV minus 345. Throw him in a parlay. The number is way too high. Then TAVARES minus 177. It's okay to bet it straight here. It's under minus 200. Then the final fight on the early prelim card, Jennifer Maia minus 200. Throw her in a parlay. You really don't want to risk it, minus 200 on a women's flyweight fight. Let's just be honest. All right, prelim fight. DuPlessis plus 118. We like that. Middleweight fight. Then TOPURIA minus 250. Throw him in a parlay. The third fight, MICHEL PEREIRA minus 162. If there's no dumb stuff, just fight straight. Use your talent. And then the final main event fight of the prelim card, Max Griffin minus 190 over the natural born killer. I believe this could be the last fight for Carlos Condit. I really, really do. And then 5 fights on the main card, Sugar Sean O'Malley. You heard the different props that Ian gave you. Finishing the first, finishing the second, TKO, under the distance if you want to throw. There's a lot of different ways to bring it down, but be very careful on the number. You want to have it in the -1 something before you throw money out on Sean O'Malley, no matter how you do it. Then Aldana, we're taking her minus 120 in the bantamweight fight. Then in the heavyweight fight, to Ivasa minus 139 over Greg Hardy. And then in the co-main event, we're going to go Stephen Wonderboy Thompson minus 157. And then a prop that he gave out to a very nice fan, Wonderboy winning by decision at plus 160. And then in the main event, Ian says nothing's going to change from what we saw in January on Fight Island. Dustin Poirier, and you better get it in, because last week on our preview early edge, it was right around even. Then we did the early edge yesterday. It was 105. Then it was 125. Now it's 134. Get it in. It's not going to go down. People don't believe Conor has it in him. He doesn't have the dog that Dustin Poirier has in him. All right? All right, that's going to do it. Remember, it's in your feed, the Early Edge MMA-only episode. We've got 2 days. Follow us on social media. We're going to be active during the fights. This is what we do, and we do it for you. All right, for Cody, for Ian, for the entire Duck Army, I am the coach. Remember, every single week that there's a card, we're going to bring you Combat Coach, because we are the premier, well, he's the premier MMA handicapper in America. Enjoy the fights. We'll see you that Saturday night. This has been Combat Coach. Until next time. Peace.